authorization. See, what we have covered so far is mostly related to authentication. How we can authenticate the user. But point is, how do we authorize the user? How do we let the user access a particular action method, or he should not be allowed to access an action method? How do we actually control this? Now that we have to cover, and on top of it I want to show you how we can implement role based authorization. That means with every request we would expect now some role also to be associated. Only when there is a role for a given user, we would like to let that user access a particular action method. But first, the simple task would be, I just go to the home controller, and here in privacy I provide authorize. Now I can just do this. That means what? All these methods are accessible to all users except authorize. Authorize requires you to authenticate. That means you should be logged in. Now what is the identity of yours? That doesn't really matter. If you are logged in, you are able to access this method. That's it. Now you can either put it at the method level, or you can put it at the controller level. So now what does it mean? Home controller is not going to be accessible to any user who is not authorized. So now if I run my project, Control F5 I press, you will notice that instead of going to home page, I am automatically redirected to the login page. What is important is, here we have one query string called as return URL, and this is actually encoded value of slash, which is root. So let us say I type here home/index, and home/index I am not able to access because it requires us to authenticate. Hence return URL now is /home/index, the encoded value. So now internally what is happening? Now when I log in here with some identity, internally it is going to create one cookie. The authentication cookie will be created, and that cookie is going to be used subsequently to verify that the user has already logged in. So now I can go to home, I can go to privacy, I can go to everything else now as long as I am logged in. So I can put authorize at the controller level. Now problem is, if suppose we have one method in this which doesn't want us to log in, what to do for that particular method alone? For example, now let me do it for index method. I am going to give allow anonymous. So overall, the complete controller, all the action methods are secured. They are not allowed access to anonymous users. An anonymous user is the one who is supposed to be not providing, the user who does not provide any identity is called as anonymous user. That means not logged in users. Whoever is not logged in, they are all anonymous user. So once a user has logged in, then they are no more anonymous. So now what we are saying, Control F5 I press again. This time home page is going to be served without any problem, because that is allowed access to anonymous user. But I am already logged in because of the cookie. Either I log out, go to home, and it's working. I go to privacy, I get redirected. Only after I log in, I can now access privacy. Close all the browser. We have only put here authorize, and for those methods where we want to allow, we have put allow anonymous. Now you have overloaded version for authorize, where you can actually give roles also. That means I want to specify which roles are allowed for accessing it. Now what is this actually? See, right now we are only having user and its identity, and we do not have any role concept. So first thing we will have to do is, between user and role we will have to create relationship. That means I have to first create roles, and I have to attach that particular role to one or more users. So when a particular user logs in, based on the user identity, all the roles are going to be loaded. And based on that role, user is going to be then authorized. So what is the procedure? The administrator is now responsible for mapping user to one or more roles. One user can have one or more roles. In also, obviously, one role can have multiple users. So it's a many-to-many relationship. User and role is a many-to-many relationship. So first, we have learned how to create user. Rather, we have seen that when we click on register, we are able to create the user. So I can show you that code in identity, account, register. So go to identity. Under that, account pages. Under that, register. Post. And the form is posted. The main code which is creating the user is this, for which user manager is used. Now what I should do? Somewhere I should provide a provision for creating role also. But unfortunately, the scaffolding template does not generate anything which is for creating roles. There is no such provision. We will have to create those pages. Now I leave it to you how you organize that whole pages scheme for yourself. To just quickly explain the example, I have roughly created one example where I say in my home controller only I am having one action method. In my home controller, I am adding now a new action method which is create user and role. Now this create user and role expects one user object, and that user object schema is something like this. Basically a view model. It has email, password. So in my models, I'll add a class user, email, password and role. I want three things here. So I'm going to create a form which is going to submit these three values, and that will come here. But what is important, to create user, we have got user manager. Likewise, to create role, we will have role manager. But how do we get user manager and role manager? They are injectable objects. Here we already have user manager. We want to now inject role manager here. So I'll say role manager. Now role manager is a generic class. We'll have to specify what type of role it is. See, in case of application user, let me go there. I've inherited from identity user, and this became a custom class. But otherwise it is identity user which is supported by the framework. Likewise here also we have got identity role. Role manager which is supporting identity role, because I did not write any class inherited from role manager. I mean identity role. If I want, I can write class inherited from identity role also. So I want here role manager. and this obviously I'll store it in a variable. And underscore role manager is equal to role manager. Simple. Now using this role manager, we create a role. So when the form is going to be submitted, it comes here. Role manager dot role exists. We are checking if there is a role by that name existing or not. If it is not existing, then we are creating the role. Otherwise, we don't create the role. What is the name of the role? user1.role, for which we have to create identity role object. Create async under role manager takes identity role as an object. Once the role is created, now it's time to create a user object, the application user object. And we are again finding if that user also already exists in the database. User dot username, if that is already existing in the database. If it is existing, it will not be equal to null, but otherwise it will be equal to null. And if it is equal to null, we are saying create async. User manager create async, role manager create async. And most important, this is role created, user created, but are they tied up? No. That I am doing it here. User manager dot add to role. This user is added to this role. That means under one role we can have many users. So this I want to execute. But for this, where is the UI? We need to create the view. This is my view. So I go back, right click here, add view, create user and role. Once I complete the whole program, I'll come back again and explain you the code. So I have create user and role at the rate model, which is my user object. User has email, user has password, user has role name. Data binding is done. When I submit the form, these three values are going to be submitted. And once these three values are submitted, we capture them in this method. Just look at this code, and if you have any questions, you can ask me. So some corrections here. I hard coded actually while I was building this, but I want to get it from the custom user object. I don't want the hard coded value. Important thing is role manager create async, user manager create async, and user manager add to role async. How beautifully you can design your UI. You may probably have a complete dedicated form for creating roles. You might have a complete dedicated form where you select a role, you select a user and then bind them to each other through drop down list. Or maybe you can choose checkboxes. It's up to you. That is real time project. You may want to do something like that. I select all the roles, I select all the users, and one shot I write logic for achieving everything. Problem. What is this? It is saying role manager cannot be injected. The reason being, here in startup, in my case it is not startup, it is identity hosting startup. Here we have said only default identity. We want to also have add default role, or okay, add role. Identity. So add identity, add roles. That also you have to take care of. Then only role manager can be injected. Perfect. I'm not logged in. So first verify if create user and role is a secured method or not. Because home controller is authorized, I will make this particular method as allow anonymous. So here I'll say home slash create user and role. Create user and role. The problem is this is post version. I will need get version also. And we'll pass here the use. Simple. We don't need async method here because we don't have any async await to be invoked. So when I type create user and role, it's going to get me the empty form. Perfect. I type here abcd @test.com, some password, some role name. I'm giving admin. It's staying on the same page. Yeah, because I haven't done anything here. Actually, I should redirect to home page. I'm not done, but that's fine. ABCD1. I'll keep the role admin. ABCD2. I'll use the role user. Now these things I should show you now in the database. So how do I get the database? I go to config file, which is app settings, connection string I pick up from here. So this is my database. So project, review, SQL Server Object Explorer, expand databases, scaffolding demo app 1. Yes, under this table. Now you should see roles table has 2 records. User, admin, and there are some IDs. And you will see user table has some records. But there is no relationship with roles at this point of time in this table. For that, there is a separate table altogether, which is ASP.NET user roles. And it's a many-to-many relationship. I created 3 users, one with the role user, 2 with the role admin. Good. Users are created, roles are created, users are tied up with the role also. One user can have multiple roles, all this good. Now how to ensure that the methods are secured? That means based on role we want to give access now. So for demo purpose I wrote this two. So I am going to add now these two methods to my home controller. One method is accessible to every authenticated user and one method is accessible to only admin. That means if you log in with an identity who is not admin, you still cannot access only admin, but you can access any user. So add view, we'll just write something. Any user can see this. Likewise for this also, let us add view and we'll say only admin can see this. Now run. I will log in with abcd2 at test.com. Login. I'm logged in. Type here home slash any user. Any user can see this. And now if I give only admin, it fails. Access is denied. It's automatically redirecting you to identity slash account slash access denied. You're not supposed to access that page and you're still trying to access. Yeah, you can always go there and customize it. Whatever you want to do, you may want to do that. Redirection to home page or give a button or report some kind of unauthorized access. Any kind of code can be written over there. But now let's try to access using abcd at test.com, who is actually admin. So I again log in with simple abcd. And now I say here only admin and we should be able to access it. Home slash only admin can see this because the first user was admin. So like this we are able to implement role based security in our application. Perfect. So please follow through. Comma separated list can be given for all the roles if required. Not necessary you should give only one role. So this particular method we can make it accessible to multiple roles also. Comma user. If you want you can do that. So that's all about role based security. That's all in this. Thank you.